Some serious allegations and also serious pushback. Former President Biden responding after this investigation, insisting that he was in control of the White House at all times and that he made all the decisions.
So meanwhile, you've got Karine Jean-Pierre, Biden's former press secretary and very public defender, is catching fire from just about all sides after ditching the Democrats in a move time with her new book launch. Watch here.
What I have decided to do, and I really have thought long and hard about this, is to follow my own compass. And here's the truth, and here's how I will lay it out to you. I think we need to stop thinking in boxes and think outside of our boxes and not be so partisan.
Okay, senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy knows the issue well from the North Lawn Live. Peter, what's going on? Good morning.
Good morning, Bill. The first story first. President Biden basically came out of retirement overnight to clap back at President Trump's constant claims that Biden aides, were acting as president to cover up for a declining president. Joe Biden himself says, "Let me be clear. I made the decisions during my presidency. I made the decisions about the pardons, executive orders, legislation, and proclamations. Any suggestion that I didn't is ridiculous and false." We may get some new insight into how Biden's final days actually shook out from the former press secretary, who always painted a very rosy picture behind the scenes and is hawking a new book.
In an era of misinformation, disinformation, the regressiveness of social policy, what we're seeing currently right now, what I have decided to do, and I really have thought long and hard about this, is to follow my own compass. So this book, Independent, it's about looking outside of boxes, not just always being in a partisan stance, and how do we move forward together?
About that, a Democratic operative tells Fox the job market is really tough right now for Biden spokespeople, and I cannot begrudge anyone who needs to make a quick buck. Simone Sanders, who worked with KJP at the White House, says a lot of group chats were revived today. And Jean-Pierre never sounded unhappy in her job, including here.
Let me tell you something. I'm the White House press secretary. It is an honor and a privilege. You hear me say this all the time. Honor and privilege to stand before you to be able to do that job. I am proud to be standing here at this podium behind this lectern on behalf of the Biden-Harris administration.
Doesn't sound like it now. That clip was in mid-August. So either she did not come to the conclusion that the Biden White House was broken, her word, until mid-August, or she was stretching the truth there about how much she liked being the White House press secretary.
So we are fortunate right now for our viewers at home to have both of our correspondents who cover the Biden White House, all 4 years of it. And I just want to maybe open up a bit of a question to both of you. And Jackie, she used the word broken in the book title, a broken White House. What's that say to you?
Great question, because she was telling us that things were chugging along and that that Joe Biden was running circles around her. But equally as eyebrow-raising for me is the word independent, because I would be really surprised to learn if there was anything independent about Karine Jean-Pierre, including her ability to think through things without the answers in a book in front of her after sitting in that press briefing room for 4 years. So I'm very excited to read this and hear her explain how she got there.
Peter, some of the Democrats are reacting already. Not a ton of names, frankly, but here's a sample of that. Former staffer, she made a joke about being independent last year, and now it's a book. All ideas are monetary, even the dumb ones. Another Biden official, she was the public face telling us all that this White House was on track and that Biden was amazing, and now she doesn't want to be a Democrat. 4 question marks there. Here is the one clip. This was July of 2022. Okay, so it's almost 3 years ago, about his stamina and physical capacity. Watch.
Does the president have the stamina, physically and mentally, do you think, to continue on even after 2024?
He's the president of the United States. I can't even keep up with him. 80's the new 40. Didn't you hear? He is as sharp as ever, as I have known him to be in my engagement and my experience with him.
Yeah, and Peter, I saw you and Jackie, and you guys were probing and poking all the time. It didn't seem like a whole lot of other people in that room were. What was your experience on that, Peter?
Well, my experience asking questions like that is that you ask the question, she pauses to answer it, but people behind you are groaning that you would even bring it up. I always found Karine Jean-Pierre behind the scenes to be a very nice person. And I think that we had a good working relationship because she did continue to call on us, even though the topics were usually pretty adversarial. But we have 4 years worth of video, 3 years with her, that shows that she was wrong. Recent history has proved her wrong on things like the border, like the economy, and like President Biden's decline. And I don't think she's going to come out in this book and say, I was wrong, but we might get an answer finally to something that I thought about for hours in that room, sitting there in the front row when it wasn't my turn. Was she answering these questions based on her own personal experience, or was she answering questions based on what bosses were telling her to say?
Jackie, what do you think about that?
You know, I just think it's interesting that she's saying she wants to, move away from the partisanship of things, because I remember when Karine Jean-Pierre suggested that all the videos of Joe Biden at his worst were cheap fakes and deep fakes and misinformation, when they were in fact the video that we as a press corps collected, on site, certainly not the product of AI. And she painted questions about him in those videos as partisan, bad faith questions. So, for her now to suggest that it's time to move away from the partisanship of this White House and take a real step back from that, I, would be curious to know who she's going to paint as the chief messenger of that, when she was the face of all of that when we were in there.
Yeah, very interesting point.
And I told
Go ahead,
her,
Peter.
Jackie, at one point when she told me that the entire premise of one of my questions in the fall, like towards the end, she said the entire premise of one of my questions was misinformation. And I told her, usually you're supposed to ask a question, but I took a moment to let her know you can't just say something is misinformation because you don't like it. And I think that was the end of that exchange. But who was telling her to go out there and dismiss things as misinformation, as entire subjects that have been proven to be true?
That's an interesting
Who
point.
was telling her to do it?
Her job is to defend the president, right? Her job, Jackie, is to defend the administration, the decisions they make, right?
Well,
So
let me just say.
Was she being forthcoming on that, or was it subterfuge? I don't want to use the word lying, but I mean, you were sitting there. What was your impression?
I might. I mean, that's if we're supposed to accept the premise that it was not her who was saying these things when we sat there and witnessed her do it. I don't know why if someone has this moral clarity right now, it didn't exist before. I find it hard to look upon that without some deep questions. So I will read the book and keep an open mind, but it's going to be interesting.
You know what she could have done? There was an easy fix. If she really thought that the Biden White House was broken, she could have quit. She was, as the White House press secretary, the most prominent Democratic communicator, really political communicator, in the entire world during her tenure. If she thought that things were so bad, or that she was being sent out to the podium to say things that she did not know to be true, then she should have quit, and she didn't.
Peter, one question. Have you had a single person text you about this that wasn't shocked and very critical? Because, all my sources in that White House, they were pretty surprised that this is a claim now that she's going with.
No, and I was getting text messages from Biden officials yesterday about this, that if you told me a year ago that people that worked for Joe Biden or Kamala Harris would be sending me this, I never would have believed it. And again, I found her behind the scenes to be a very nice person, but it doesn't seem like anybody that worked with her thinks that, because the knives are out.
Yeah. Peter, thank you. Jackie,
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you. Time to reflect for both of you. I don't know if that's PTSD or that's a cleansing.
Probably both.
Thanks, guys. More coming up on this. Appreciate it.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.